I wrote the book Fearing Nothing based on my experience. I had a lot of anxiety growing up, and I was able to overcome that through a number of tools and experiences. And in so doing, I felt that there was still a huge need in the marketplace of people that need the answers to how to overcome anxiety, fear, depression, stress, all across the board. You know, it's a good question. I had somebody recently ask me, you know, when did I first experience anxiety? And my first initial, what I refer to as an anxiety attack, I was 19 years old. But I can remember when I was in second grade that I had a library book. It's probably 50-cent library book, and I couldn't find it. And I remember being so stressed out and so worried that something miserable was going to happen to me. So when I went to the librarian, she looked 9 feet tall, and I looked over her desk, and I was so ashamed to say, I don't have it. And it was interesting, and I don't know if that was necessarily an anxiety attack. It wasn't, but it was just high levels of stress. And so, for clarification, the bottom line is when I was 19 years old, I had my first anxiety attack where it threw me out of my mind, so to speak, and didn't know what was going on. And then it seemed to reside, and at 26, then it came back, and struggled with it from there on. Yeah. So at 26 years old, I ended up really having an anxiety attack where I completely lost control of my mind, where I would say, and people hate hearing this, but I had a mental breakdown. I had a tremendous amount of work. I was super busy in real estate and was overwhelmed for my maturity level. And I essentially just couldn't stand anything. I couldn't sit still, couldn't move. I had tics and twitches and legs were kicking, and no matter what I was doing. And so it got to the point where I ended up getting stuck in my home because I couldn't get out because I was afraid of driving my vehicle. And then it went to the next level where once I finally got over the point I could get in my car and get driving, I couldn't go on the highway, I couldn't go on the freeway, I couldn't do anything. I didn't fly by no chance. I mean, getting in a car was hard enough, but there was just so much to it. I could go on and on about the experience I've had of fear. I mean, I had anxiety attacks. It didn't matter if I was in a bank line getting my hair cut when I had hair. It didn't matter where I was always on edge and afraid and worried when the next one was going to happen. Yeah, an anxiety attack can last anywhere from a couple seconds, I suppose. I never really had one that short, but usually a few minutes to about a half hour by the time your body calms down a little bit. So after the age of 26, I went for another 20 years of having anxiety. And about the age of 45, 46 years old, I started to identify with some specific strategies that I had learned from various sources, but one in particular of my own that I call it a godsend or a heaven sent, which helped me to experience something that made the difference. And so the last 5 years have been pretty anxiety free. You know, no one is ever anxiety free because we live in the same world as everybody. But I never react in the way I used to. Well, it's interesting you'd say that. What I experience is more confidence than most people experience. And I think it's through learning certain traits, certain characters about myself. And in my book, Fearing Nothing, I share with people 10 tools, but also another 10 characteristic trait that people can inherently work on in order to become more confident and have less fear. I think a specific answer to that is that everybody experiences fear, but the way that we handle that fear may be different. And I feel that my book addresses a lot of those experiences. What attracted me to network marketing was simply the money. I needed to make more money because I was making great money in real estate, and when the downturn happened, I needed to replace that income. You know, I think network marketing is pretty doggone simple, and that's what's attractive to it. Or I should say, I think that's what's attractive about it, is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be good at network marketing, but you do have to be willing to overcome fears that maybe you have, and everybody has them. They may not admit to it, they may not acknowledge it, but everybody's got fears. And most people are truly afraid to be rejected in some form or another. And so I feel that the concept that I have in my book and elsewhere is about how to overcome those fears of rejection and how to push forward and become a better version of yourself. Yeah, I think that people are afraid to talk to other people. It's called social phobia. or social anxiety? I think the answer really is people are so concerned about how they come across. They're so worried about what people think of themselves. And they're also afraid of being rejected. And I think that there's a couple tips that I have, and one in particular is the concept of WPT. And that is a concept that says I have to learn that I don't care what other people think. And so that's one. Another thing is to literally write down all of your fears in one place. Write it on one page. We call it worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that could happen if I go out of my comfort zone to go out and talk to people about this business? And you'll find that it's kind of silly. You'll find that they probably won't ever happen. None of this will ever happen. But by reading that over and over, and then while you're reading it, suggesting to yourself, hey, you know what? Who cares? I'll handle it. So what? Those words that you can share with yourself while you're reading your worst case scenario story will empower you to learn on how to become better at facing that nervous fear that you might have. And in the end, it is about feeling it anyway. So in the real final solution of getting over that is to do it and expect that it's going to happen and be okay with it. There's an old saying, there's a book that says fail forward or go for no. All of those are great examples of experiencing fear and then learning from it. It's big. Personal development should be at the top of your list. The reason why network marketing companies hire motivational speakers and hire speakers to come out and talk to their people is because they want them to be better. And if you want to be the best at something, you have to be better yourself. If you want to become the best person in your company, you want to become the number one salesperson, you want to become the number one distributor, you have to get better at a lot of things. And the number one thing on that list is being better at being you. And the way to be better at being you is to learn. Experience, fail forward, make mistakes, but learn from what you've done. Learn from other people. Learn from people that have come before you. The Bible's a great book if you keep it in perspective. I think that the book How to Win Friends and Influence People can help you with great personal development. The Power of Positive Thinking is a good book. Anthony Robbins' book on Unlimited Power is an incredible book. To understand the power of asking the right questions will drive the type of behavior you'll have in your life. There's a lot of great books out there. It depends on what it is you're in search of and what you're questing for. Yeah. It's funny, when I was asked that, what's your why? And I was always told, well, your why's not big enough, your why's not making you cry and all this. And I think there is some validity to it. It's probably overused, in my opinion, a little bit in the network marketing industry. But I do think that there's the fundamental truth of what they're trying to ask you is, what's going to make you tick? What's going to make you go out and face those fears? What are you going to do now that maybe you wouldn't have done if you're just doing it for the money or you're just doing it for this? But sometimes money is enough. I used to hear that, well, money's not a good enough why. Well, you know what, it is. Because that having enough money will help support your family, will help send your grandma to the hospital under good care, will help, whatever your reasons are. But those, again, are all under that title, your why. And so it's important. It's what's going to drive you to succeed. They don't recruit. People in network marketing choose to not recruit because they're afraid. And then they wonder why their teammates are not recruiting and their business is not growing. They continue to say, oh my gosh, nobody's doing anything in my business because I got my 2 friends in. And that's not enough. Everybody has to recruit 20, 30, 50, 100 people. And when you do that, everybody on your team does that. And when everybody on your team does that, you have a massive organization allowing you to have a great business. Well, I think this is where the High Achievers Playbook comes into hand, and you need to have balance in your life. All work and no play makes anybody dull. And I think that when you are able to schedule work and time and play, it makes up who you are. And so although I have a tendency to lean towards this concept of fearing nothing book and this concept of people have all these fears, the truth is your body has to take time off. Your mind has to take time off. And if you're not taking the time off, then you will not be whole again in order to have the best production for yourself. So the way in which to endure a nice life or to enjoy a nice life is really this whole concept of scheduling time for yourself, scheduling time for your family, being organized with the High Achievers Playbook. What I like about network marketing most is probably just the self-development and also just the people. You know, everybody's there for a common theme of wanting to change their life, have a more enjoyable life while earning an income. But I think that what I probably am most excited about when I think of network marketing is everybody's there to learn to be better themselves. And that gets me excited, to be around those like-minded individuals. I think social media is great. I think that you have to continue to post the right posts. You have to engage in the right conversations, be politically correct, and put your best foot forward. In social media, you're being watched whether you think so or not. People see you, and people will be attracted to you if you continue to put out a good front for what you're doing and how you're enjoying your life while making an income. It can be powerful. You know, my biggest fear in network marketing was probably, unfortunately, during a time when I was still experiencing anxiety, and I didn't like to get on airplanes. In fact, I had not been on an airplane for probably 20 years. And so for many people that are hearing this thinking, oh my God, how's that even possible in today's world? But that was a reality. And so I kind of fell into the group of fear of success, because I was afraid that if I actually start getting groups in other states and other parts of the world, then I would be asked to go and speak there or be a helper or be a trainer, and I didn't want any part of that. And so thankfully I was able to overcome that and get through. I think that for 30 years I've been struggling to try to improve. And like anybody, we all have something. And for me, I had been avoiding to work on that one particular issue of flying, because it wasn't one that I could just step out of the car and say, okay, I need to take a breath of fresh air. So it's a big step for somebody that had been struggling with so many anxiousness experiences. And so what got me to do it, I suspect, is probably a little bit of trust and a little bit of tools that enabled me to know that I will handle it. And once my brain experienced it, and the second time was certainly less difficult. And just like anybody that wants to overcome any fear, one step at a time will get you anywhere.